So everyone, welcome back to In 10 Years Time podcast with me, you and Blakeway. Today's guest, very happy to get Ben Wiggins on. The last name might ring a bell to a few of you, but we'll get into more about Ben in this. Obviously, Ben, you're 18 years old?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and you won the silver at the Junior Time Trial World Champs and also the gold Madison Junior World Champs as well. So first of all, when I start these, I always go the guests' personal lives and like they're growing up and stuff. So you're born in Ormskirk, is that right?
Yeah, near a little town near Liverpool.
Yeah. What was it like growing up there? Yeah.
I was just born there. We only lived there for a couple of years. Yeah, it was just pretty normal. I've spent my childhood sort of moving around quite a lot. So,
yeah.
Didn't really grow up as such in that area, but yeah, it was always fairly safe area. Never really had anything that's sort of dangerous or anything like that. So
right.
Yeah.
And you talked about moving around. I'm presuming is that something to do like your dad's? Your dad, obviously, dad being Sir Bradley Wiggins.
Yeah,
so
spent a lot of time in Spain. Spent a lot of time living in Girona. So I started school there, and then moved to Mallorca. But I spent most of my young years bouncing in between Spain and around here. So, but yeah, it was a good experience to have growing up. I think learning a bit of Spanish and experiencing different culture, and I've always got somewhere I'm familiar with abroad as well. So
you speak Spanish?
Not so much anymore, but I did when I was younger. I could.
You could, really?
And it wasn't actually Spanish. It was Catalonian. Which is
right. Oh yeah, of course, yeah, Girona,
which was sort of part of the problem with going to school there, and partly why we came back I came back to school in England pretty soon after.
Oh, because of what went down over there?
Yeah, it was just because Catalonia, you can't, it's just there, they use that language.
Yeah,
so it's not, you can't, there's no use anywhere else.
That is fair enough.
Catalonian, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Wales, and I guess the only place that uses Welsh is Wales. Apart from there's a place in Argentina called Patagonia. They speak a bit of Welsh. Yeah. Am I right in thinking you're the only son in your, you've got a couple of sisters?
Yeah, I've got two sisters.
Get on with them all right and stuff?
Yeah, I've got a good relationship with my sister. She's 17, and then I have a younger sister who's two and a half now, so... Yeah. And
how was school for you in Lancashire and also in Catalonia?
Yeah, it was good. I went to started off at a comprehensive primary school near where we used to live in Eccleston. And then when my dad's profile started building, we moved to a private school, Kirkham Grammar School, which was also tied into me playing rugby at the time. I think, it's made me the person I am today, and I'm grateful for what the Kirkham Grammar in particular did for me. I've got some friends for life from there and stuff like that, and it was,
And was there, what did you, obviously you're a cyclist now, but was there anything from school that you're thinking about doing long term, apart from rugby, anything academic or anything like that? No.
I've always wanted to do something in sport. I had a small, at GCSE, I had an interest in sort of PE, as you do with the sort of how your body works, stuff like that. Just in case, God forbid, I had a horrible injury or something, I always wanted to do something in sport, regardless of whether it's on the pitch or doing what, or working behind the scenes. So, but in terms of in the classroom, no, it was never.
Yeah. So what were you? Were you a naughty? Were you a naughty kid?
No, I wasn't naughty. I was just. I've actually recently found out I have ADHD as well.
Oh, okay.
So it explains how energetic I was growing up. So,
right.
I just struggled to concentrate with things I wasn't interested in. So, but I think my main interest was always sport, and
Yeah.
going into some sport in some form.
You mentioned you did rugby as well, and you took that pretty seriously, like that. I think at school, was it rugby league you were doing? Was it union?
No, I started.
I know around this part of the world, rugby league is quite.
Yeah, I started when we used to live in Eccleston, which is near Wigan, and obviously Wigan have a very big rugby club, and rugby league club, and so I started off at Oral St James, which was my local club playing rugby league, and then when I moved to Kirkham, it was Union, and played Union then until I decided to stop playing rugby.
Right. What do you prefer, league or union?
League every day.
Really?
I was just growing up with it. My mum's from Wigan, and she grew up watching Wigan Warriors play, and my granddad as well. He's a big fan. So, I've always watched it. I've never had an interest in union really.
Really, not at all.
No, I think to be honest, if I'd carried on playing league, there's a good chance I'd still be playing.
Right. Yeah.
I think it just wasn't for me really. It's a different environment altogether. Just the two games, I think. Yeah,
union's a bit more like upper class kind of,
exactly.
isn't it?
I think I'd like to think I prefer those the environment. A bit more rough and tumble rather than I don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah, no.
I just but
no.
I mean.
No, that's interesting you said that, because when I talk to a lot of athletes that are performing at a high level, they often come from like struggling backgrounds or environments, and then that's what motivates them. Obviously, you being the son of one of the greatest cyclists ever from this country, obviously it's not like that. So where I'm interested in knowing where you think you get your motivation from.
I know that's definitely a good point. I think my mum and dad did come from that sort of background.
Yeah.
I think, and they've done a good job of keeping me grounded, both of them, to be. And I think just the environment I grew up in as well. Like, the school I went to, we had a lot of kids coming from places like, deprived areas like Blackpool, and you had pretty, I say when I said before I went to a private school, it was a good mix of people that were. So I wasn't sheltered kid that, I know I have a good understanding of real life. I like to think. But my motivation, I think it just comes from, it's more, it comes from more just trying to prove to myself and, that I think I'd be lying if I said the motivation for me wasn't to be, I don't want to be seen as, he was just Bradley Wiggins' son. I've said to him to his face, I've said to him that I'd like him to be known as, I want him to be Ben Wiggins' dad at one day.
Yeah. What does he say to that?
Okay, he's all for it. He's my biggest supporter.
Yeah.
So
that's good. And obviously, you got through cycling through him, obviously. But was there any subconscious pressure for you to go into cycling, or?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I sort of always knew it was going to happen at some point, but it sort of just was a natural thing. But I was never pushed into it or anything. I did have a bike from
very young,
as early as I can remember, but definitely wasn't pressured into it. If anything, I was probably encouraged more to do other things as well. So and
that obviously saying you want to grow out of your dad's shadow or ever, like, does that ever? I'm sure you'll grow out of it because you're pretty flipping good at cycling. But does that ever like bug you when like people say, "Oh yeah, you're only in it"? Cause...
Not anymore, no. Because I've achieved my own. I've got my own achievements now.
Yeah.
And I think back when I turned junior 2 years ago, and I started racing abroad, especially in places like Belgium and France, where it's their national sport. So it's like the equivalent of David Beckham's kids or Wayne Rooney's kids, Steven Gerrard's kids playing football in Brazil or just in Europe. It's like they're. Sorry, let me start a bit again.
No, that's okay.
So it's like me going to Europe, racing in France and Belgium is like basically the equivalent of David Beckham's kids or Steven Gerrard's kids playing football in England. And it was quite hard to deal with that pressure at first, because I was just, you know, it was like, oh, is he going to be as good?
Did you feel like you had eyeballs? Like,
yeah, 100%. I don't know if they actually were. You know, I don't know if it was just more in my head, but I'm pretty sure that, you know, there was quite a lot of talk, and I found it hard. Like, there were quite on social media, and there were comments and stuff like that. I found myself reading them, and I had to learn to sort of deal with that. But I had my coach at the time help me through that big time, and it's not something I struggle with at all now. I'd like to think I've sort of made my own path now. Yeah,
well, you definitely have, because I mean, I didn't, before around August, September, I didn't know much about cycling, because I went to the Asian Games and I was covering the cycling stuff that just so happened to be, I know it was sick. But yeah, no, I've always wanted to know, I mean, not just you, but other sports stars like kids, and they do that kind of stuff. I always wanted to know how much that affected them. Like, if you don't mind me going into it, you mentioned that you recently got diagnosed with ADHD. So, like, how did you come by that? Like, what made you want to get tested for it? Or
I think, just, if I'm honest, I first started seeing things on TikTok. I think, as a lot of people do nowadays. Yes. And I was like, bloody hell, I've got quite a lot of these, and it was things like, I think what really turned my attention in particular was I can't go to sleep without a fan on or something, just some noise. And my girlfriend's in, and she'll tell you it drives her mad.
Yeah.
But that sort of started my thoughts with it, really. And I was always the most energetic kid growing up. And parents would be like, bloody hell, like, he's got a lot of energy, this lad. And just like various things made me think, right. And then I went to get assessed for something else. I had 2 assessments that day, and I was like, can you just assess me for this? And yeah, that's where I got that diagnosis from.
And you're not too, you weren't too bothered about it. You're just like, I've just got this.
No, it just explained a lot of things for me, really. Like, I think I used to get in so much trouble for being late to my track camps and stuff like that. But I was able to explain. It just explains why, really. I just have an inability to keep track of time. Like, I was late to this.
Yeah.
I think I have more time than I do, and stuff like it just explained a lot for me, really. And it's just going to help me moving forward, really. And being able to let people know, that this is what you might have to work around it somewhat, and same for me. It's just good to know.
And from your cycling teams, have they ever since that, have they given you extra support in any way as well because of it?
No, it's not, because I dealt with it for 18 years, so there's no reason for me.
I guess you're just used to it, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to make a big deal of it, but I just goes to show, I think a lot of sports people do, and they just don't realise, and yeah, I don't think it's certainly not something to be ashamed of at all, or I think, if anything, it can help you in so many ways, to raise awareness for other people as well.
That's cool. Obviously, you mentioned you did rugby, and now you're turning pro next year, if I'm right in thinking. It's not for an American team; it's for an American sponsored. Because I saw the Hagens thing, and I looked at Hagens, it was American, but just sponsored. What made you decide, I'm going to go down this cycle? What was the moment that you thought, actually, I'm going to pursue this now for as long as I can?
I think just around COVID, really. I'd sort of started to juggle playing rugby and cycling, and then obviously the world shut down for the pandemic, and we're at home, and I was like, I need to keep fit, and I started just training. I got myself a coach and started training properly, and then I got onto that. Then that winter 2020, I got onto the GB, sort of the youth setup, just before you go up to junior. I got onto that, and that's when I started really. That's the point when I started. I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do now, full time.
And obviously, you do more with like the endurance kind of races now in the track and on the road. When I went to the Asian Games, I was quite pleasantly surprised by the track stuff, because I didn't realise it makes sense because the arenas are so small and the sound bounces off everything.
Yeah.
I thought the atmosphere was great for all of them. So like obviously you do the Madison and stuff, but were you tempted? Was there any chance of you doing sprint cycling stuff as well?
No, never.
Did you try it at all?
No.
Never even tried it?
I've never sprinting. I always when I was little, I always enjoyed watching the sprints, like the match sprints in the Keirin, it's called.
Yeah.
But it was never something I thought I was going to do, you know, like, I think probably, you know, I wanted to do what my dad did, probably. So, yeah, I think that was probably, I just never really gave it a thought to go into sprinting.
After when I watched the sprinters, every time they came off their legs are just like literally collapsed.
We have a little joke. Like we have a little joke with the sprinters in the GB program that, you know, they're not actually cyclists. They're just bodybuilders who. Well,
yeah,
but
it's a little bit like that though.
It's completely different. I know it's like and technically it's the same sport, but a lot of one of my coaches said to me, like, you know, we used to say like it's, you know, in many ways it's completely different because it's just a completely different way of training. They probably ride their bikes. They probably ride their bikes like a fraction of what we do, and it's not even the main part of their training, if I'm honest. It's,
when doing weightlifting and stuff, isn't
they're
it?
weightlifting probably 75% of the time.
Yeah,
and then the actual sessions they do on the bike they do three efforts and go home. And they have like an hour in between them, and then they go home because it's all max stuff. So, you know, you can't obviously keep repeating that. So, but yeah, I admire what they do, but it just didn't appeal to me.
Cool. And you've raced for this season, or maybe longer, you've raced for Fensham in the amateurs under Giles Pidcock, son of Tom Pidcock, who's won the couple of one-day classics, mountain bike world champs, cyclocross in the Olympics, world championships, etc. So how did you meet him?
I think we just started when I was a youth and looking for, like, I think at the time when you're going up to junior, you think looking for a team's a very big thing. And it was at the time. It was like the biggest thing to me. And Giles's team, Fensham, had been the best junior team in the UK for a number of years, and they had all the best races abroad. And I thought, I think someone I raced with, who was my teammate at Fensham, his dad knows Giles quite well, and he said, I've got a group of lads, they're all friends, they race together, they'd love to join the team. And so I actually got in touch with him through someone else, and then started chatting to Giles, and he was quite keen to help me out, as when my dad's team, Team Wiggins, was going, Tom rode for them, so it was like a full circle sort of thing.
Yeah.
That he helps me out as well, and it was quite nice. Yeah.
And when I was doing my research, a lot of cyclists, ex-Olympians, were saying that Giles is a really good coach and stuff. So why is Giles such a good coach in like UK cycling? And what is it about him?
He does a lot of work for I think, as many cycling fans will know, that the UK scene is struggling at the minute, and I think and there isn't a lot of pathway for I'm lucky that I've been able to get a team, and I think this year there's been 5 lads my age that will go on to race abroad next year for a big team. And in the UK there isn't really a pathway to do that, and Giles is one of the few that tries his best to help lads get through, and he can only help so many, obviously, but the lads he has helped, me especially, and my teammates for the past couple of years, we wouldn't be in the position we are without him. And he wasn't actually my coach, but just as a mentor, and he knows he'd been through it himself with Tom, helping him get through the ranks. So just having someone there that knew how to do it, really, because it had changed so much from when my dad was racing. Having someone who knew the ins and outs of it was helpful for me the past 2 years.
And why do you think British cycling is struggling at the moment to get people in?
I don't know. I think it's not down to one person or anything. I think the standard of racing, unfortunately, in the UK is never going to be as good as it is abroad, because we can't get closed roads and stuff like that. Obviously the cost of living crisis in the UK. Not everyone can pay an entry fee to race and drive there, etc. But it's not down to just one person. I think it's just it's a group effort that will take to sort of help the domestic racing scene.
Do you think it's also because some people like your age or younger, and they see like football and stuff like that on the TV or boxing or whatever, and obviously cycling's not really quite as mainstream as that. Do you think that's another reason as well, because they don't really just see it as much?
Yeah, I think we had the big cycling 10 years ago when Cav won the Worlds and my dad won the Tour de France and the London Olympics around that. We had a big surge in just athletes in general, really. With that,
like London 2012, wasn't it?
With the Olympics.
Yeah.
So there was a big surge, there was a big sort of cycling boom then, I think, and then it sort of died. I think my year and the year below me is sort of the last year where there's a lot of good riders. I think below that you sort of start to see a decline in the number of kids that we've got racing now, and I think it's just down to there's not enough money to sort of fund everyone to get, because I think, I'm not sure, I wouldn't quote me on this, but I think there's not as much funding going into things like Go Rides and stuff like that, which Go Ride was a thing to get just families out on bikes as a group, and you get a just standard coaching on road safety, stuff like that. And I don't think there's not as much money going into that, which is understandable. There's we've not had a home Olympics for 10 years now, I think just as well with, unfortunately, people are struggling for money and stuff like that, and it is an expensive sport. It takes a lot of time and money that not everyone's got, unfortunately.
The bikes themselves obviously cost quite a bit of money, and the wheels.
When you get to my age, you need 2 bikes, really, and then even at such a young age, you've got to buy the bike, kit, shoes, helmet, stuff around it, nutrition, race nutrition, that's expensive stuff as well. On top of driving across the country to go and do a race, a national series race, which everyone will see you there. Not everyone's got it, and I think there are cheaper alternatives at the minute to cycling. Football, you only need a ball, boots, and a ball, and there's a club. You can find a football club 5 minutes down the road, whereas sometimes, like I'm lucky that a cycling club is 20 minutes from me, but how many people know their nearest cycling club? I don't think many people could name their nearest cycling club, and I think that's part of the problem. But it's just what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I see where I'm from, there's a lot of tourists come and do cycling, but not as a sport, just as like a jolly kind of thing. So you would think maybe, but then I guess they're all retired people or whatever. I mean, they're not gonna race, I guess, are they? Unless they do some over 50s race or something. I'm just gonna pause it.
Yeah, no worries.
Because sometimes it just stops. Where we are. Obviously, you're now with, is it Hagens?
Hagens, Berman, Jacob.
Hagens, Berman, Jacob. Yeah. For next season as a pro, why them? And was there any chance of you going to another team?
I think for me, the main reason was the team manager, Axel Merckx. His dad was Eddie Merckx, who's general consensus he's the best cyclist ever. He's like the Michael Jordan of cycling, the Lionel Messi of cycling.
Football, yeah.
So, I think for me, having someone who's been through exactly what I've been through, and even on a greater scale, he was from Belgium, which, as I said before, it's their national sport.
Yeah,
the pressure he must have been under, I don't even want to imagine. With the pressure I've been under as well, I don't even want to imagine the scale of pressure he was under. And for me, I was pretty set on going there for quite a while, to be honest. And yeah, to have his guidance through the next year or however long I'm there for will be invaluable to me, I believe. So,
did he or Hagens come to you, or did you go to them?
Well, my dad's good friends with him, and they just started having a conversation between them two to start with, and then around June this year, after I'd won a big race in France, he was like, "Yeah, right, we'll move on this," and gave me a call. And from there, it was never really too much of a thought process for me. I was pretty set on going there from the start. I mean, I had a couple other options and I gave some thought, but for me, they were always first option.
No, the guy that I did the cycling with, I didn't know this because I always thought France was. I mean, obviously cycling is massive in France, but I thought that was the country where it was the most biggest sport. But it's Belgium actually.
Yeah.
But that makes. I thought I think it'd be the Netherlands or something like that because it's just flat
Belgium
everywhere.
Belgium and France are, I think, the main, but most of mainland Europe, to be honest, are just mad about it. Yeah, it's just it's worlds apart from the UK, where
Do you think it is because it's flatter?
On the roads, from drivers and stuff. There's just cyclists in the UK are just seen as nuisance, basically. But and as a driver myself, there are
some ages.
I do see, but I mean, but it's good to experience on the mainland Europe. How enthusiastic they are about it, and it's what makes me love the sport, to be honest.
So it must be some sort of cultural thing then, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't even know, to be honest. But it's just like football is here. It's just
everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, no, like you said, I don't know if you watch the Grand Tour, Top Gear, or whatever, but Jeremy Clarkson always has a go at cyclists on there and stuff. So I guess that doesn't do you guys any favours. Then what? I guess in France or Belgium, if they come up behind a few cyclists on the road, I guess they're they don't really care as much.
It's just it's just normal. It's not like they're not. It's just normal there. It's just been a way of life there for so many, and in places like. Copenhagen, Amsterdam, everyone has a bike around because it's just the go-to way of transport. So, but it's just not like that in the UK for whatever reason. Me
and my mates, we hired a couple of bikes in Copenhagen, but it was one of those electric ones.
Yeah.
They were rapid. I can go very fast over.
Yeah, they've got them in London now. I don't think they're as accepted as
No, I think it's called Lime or Tier or something like that.
And they're expensive.
Yeah, they are.
Spent 40 quid in 2 days on a Lime bike.
Did you? Yeah. Where was that? In London?
Yeah, just I didn't realise you can't pause them. You get charged for pausing them as well.
And scooters as well.
Yeah.
Not in Birmingham where I did uni, they were big on scooters over there. What's next season going to be about for you? If your first season as a pro, in terms of your development, is there anything in particular you're looking to get better at?
I think just gaining as much knowledge and developing as much as I can. I think right now the main focus for me, I've got a bit of an injury, which is quite serious, and I think it's going to take a couple months to get back to the level I was before, and then building on that also. But for me, just riding all the big races I can. I have some goals, obviously, as I think every athlete does. But I think for me, just gaining as much experience and developing as much as I can. That's the main for my first year as a under 23 professional, whatever you want to call it. And then even getting to the next level, which is called the World Tour, which is like the Premier League in cycling. that's the long-term goal, I think.
Obviously, you talked about your injury. Is there a time in the new year where or like a race in the new year that you're targeting to be ready for? And hopefully your elbow would have been...
There's a track race in Portugal. That's my goal. But my sort of first goal, the goal I want to be like back to, really back to where I was before is probably the track nationals at the end of February.
Okay.
And then the road season starts after that. So, but for me, the main goal next year, I'd like to ride the under 23 Giro d'Italia, which is
Nice.
the Italian version of the Tour de France, basically.
Yeah.
And then the Tour of Britain in September, which that would be pretty cool. I'd be happy if I was able to, not only ride them, but perform well there as well.
Yeah. How have you overcoming your injury? Like, how have you overcome it? Like psychologically, when it happened, were you like, oh man, I'm gonna be out for longer than I wanted, or whatever? Or
well, it's still an ongoing process, to be honest, because it was only a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But it's just frustrating not being able to do what you're normally able to do, more than anything. And I just got back to training. I've been on the bike for a couple of weeks. But again, if you told me 2 weeks ago I'd be back on the turbo, on the indoor trainer, training already, I wouldn't have believed you. So I'm happy with where I'm at already. And then, it's just playing the long game and trusting the process of getting back to where I was.
Obviously, at the Junior World Champs, you won gold in the Madison. What do you prefer? Do you prefer doing the outdoor ones, like the tours or whatever, the one-day classics, or do you prefer doing the Madison or whatever in the
track? So I always tell people ask me all the time if I prefer track or road, and I always say I love them both because I have both. So
very different, aren't they?
Yeah, and if I get sick of road racing, because they're both very mentally, they take a lot out of you. And you sometimes just want to freshen it up. So say I'd been racing non-stop on the road between March and June, then in July I'll just go on the track for a month, do some races there, and then I get sick of the track quite easy because you're indoors all day and it's not the same at all. It's a lot more intense, so you need a lot more recovery in between. So it's also a lot of sitting around. You get sick of that quite quick, and then go back to the road, do the road for a couple of months, come back to the track. So I wouldn't say I prefer either. It depends on my mood or what I'm doing at that time, or how much of it I've been doing at that time.
Yeah, and since I saw it live, I've always wanted to ask a cyclist this: how do you do that? How do you practice for like a Madison?
Just training. It's just practicing.
But because on the track there's just so many riders, and the whole clasping the hands thing.
If you go into cycling, you taught that from the ages. I think I started doing Madison at 12, and then obviously it was like one of my dad's events basically, and I've always watched it. It's always been my favourite track event. So it just came naturally to me, really. And it varies. It does vary with the person you're doing it with. Some people do the hand sling differently. But yeah, I mean, there's just practicing. Really. It's just getting it's more. The main thing with it is confidence.
You have to be confident to do that.
Speed and being thrown in, obviously one person's coming in slow, aren't they?
Yeah, and the balance as well to get your hand out when you're going at that fast. And I thought I was sick when I was watching it. To be fair, I was like, that is pretty amazing. I'm asking this season. I'm asking all my interviewees, with the, I don't know if you follow this, but the whole misfits boxing thing. Because I'm a bit into boxing, and there's this debate these guys, they're not that skillful, but they've got these big profiles, and then that's why doing all these crazy events and stuff. So for you as like a younger athlete, how important do you think it is, even particularly for cycling? Because like we've discussed, it's not even that big of a mainstream sport like football. So how important do you think it is for you to like build a social following as a cyclist?
Well, huge, yeah. I mean, yeah, massive. I think especially it can help you so much in terms of getting on a team, you know, because it can also benefit the team if you've got a big following. It can, you know, and obviously as a sponsor, if you're going to put money into a team to help them go to races and so on and so on.
Yeah.
If you've got a high profile athlete, he doesn't even need to be good, but if he brings a lot of attention to your company, then you're going to put money in. And that can be the difference between you getting a contract and not. But even more so, I think for me, you know, I've always been interested in other things as well. You know, I'm quite keen on, like, I'd like to do other things as well and be sort of my main, I think in 20 years time, I'd like to be seen as sort of like a sort of David Beckham profile, sort of like a, you know, a lot of people know he's a footballer, but a lot of people see him as something else. Like they don't know he was even a footballer, and I think I'd quite like it if I was able to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be doing that in building a following will help me do that.
You can't say your dad. A favorite athlete or cyclist of all time?
Of all time, I see. I've always because I was into so many sports. I think I've got loads. You know, I think cyclists. I think you got Mark Cavendish, Peter Sagan. I know not a lot of people. This is going to be nothing.
I know Cavendish. I've heard. Yeah, I know Mark Cavendish.
Mark Cavendish for me, and then rugby players. Growing up watching Wigan, I was Sam Tompkins, Josh Charnley. Again, not a lot of people are going to know who they are.
Yeah.
But and then I'm a massive Liverpool fan. You know, I fell in love with Steven Gerrard, Fernando Torres, Suarez, Coutinho, Van Dijk, Salah, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I've just got so many because I admire so many athletes. You know, Mike Tyson, Tyson Fury, John Jones, Conor McGregor. You know, I'm just LeBron James, Michael Jordan. Go on and on and on. About people I admire because they've all got so many different attributes and traits, which makes them great. Which I think, yeah.
Do you go to Anfield quite often?
Yeah, I've got a season ticket.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's
Liverpool doing pretty good at the moment.
Yeah, we're all right. We're doing decent. I think we're on the right path, and I'm looking forward to. It's still early in the season. Yeah. That. I remember last week when we drew to Luton, the people were saying we're not going to win the league, and we beat Brentford, and it's like we're second in the league, a point off City. So, you know.
Nice one. Last question I always ask: name of podcasters in 10 years' time. So Ben Wiggins, you're 18 now. 10 years' time, you're going to be 28 in 2033. Where would you like to see yourself in 10 years' time? In cycling and out of it as well. Yeah,
in cycling, I'd like to be one of the best pros in the world. You know, winning stages of the Tour de France, if not the whole thing. You know, world champ. I'd like to be world champ. I know that I'd like to add a few more world titles. You know, just be the best I can be. I'd love to. Yeah, I mean, it's quite a hard question to answer, to be honest. Because
Olympics.
Definitely. 100%. The LA Olympics are like my main goal for the sort of midterm. But yeah, I'd love to be Olympic champion, world champion, riding the Tour de France, Giro d'Italia, all sorts, you know. I think, and then outside, just have a good following, you know, be financially, you know,
secure.
I mean, that is a I don't care what people say. It is a motivation, you know, money, you know. And then, you know, hopefully, just be happy, to be honest, with what I'm doing, enjoying what I'm doing, and yeah, that's about it.
Cool, Ben. Thanks so much.
No worries.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you. Cheers.